Everybody, thank you for joining us for the Livepeer community call. This one is a special one because it's going to be both a project update and it's also going to be a bit of a demo jam. So we're going to try to show you what has recently been launched, what's going to be launched from a couple of people who are deep in the weeds of creating. But we're going to start off right now, and Doug is going to take us through a project update. Over to you.
All right, thanks, Stephen. Hello, everyone. Just sharing my screen here. Hopefully that comes up for everyone in a moment. So I'm Doug Picanics, one of the co-founders of the Livepeer project. Thanks for joining the quarterly project update. Do this once a quarter, highlight the latest and greatest of what's going on. And as Stephen mentioned, we'll have a chance to do some demos and have time for Q&A for any questions that come up. Reminding everyone what we're doing here, building the world's open video infrastructure. And I think Livepeer plays a kind of a key role, especially in this Web3 movement that needs an open and independent video infrastructure to power the new wave of applications being built on Web3 and blockchain primitives. And we're just well positioned to be the leading project in that space. So it's been exciting to see all the things that have been built. I'm going to give about a 10-minute update. I think the main thing that everyone should be aware of, where there's been a lot of focus within the project, has been on onboarding applications, onboarding users of Livepeer who use the infrastructure network to power video streaming. And it's going well. We're seeing a lot of growth and adoption in terms of being the leading video platform in Web3. Those of you who kind of follow along closely with the project, some of these names look familiar. These are examples of some of the great applications that our users have been building. Ranging from Lens2, which is sort of like a decentralized YouTube, and the Lens kind of social ecosystem. Huddle01 is sort of a Zoom for Web3 that projects use for video conferencing. They use Livepeer for broadcasting. Beam is a great creator-focused application focused on filmmakers and other form of creative events. 402 is an innovative kind of music video and concert-specific NFT platform doing a lot of experimentation. StreamETH was used to stream the entire Ethereum ecosystem DevCon conference, including all 8 or 9 stages for the 4 days of the event, and had a large audience. It's been really exciting to see finally like the social application layer emerging on top of Web3 infrastructure using Web3 primitives, and Livepeer is a key element for those. So that's where a lot of the focus has been. That's been really exciting. At the same time, one of the challenges that we should all be aware of is that this market is still very early, and we haven't yet seen like the breakout killer applications. Some of those applications I showed are growing, which is great, and we're supporting that. But we're not seeing the hundreds of thousands, millions of daily active users like you see in kind of big tech, traditional social. And so it still requires a lot of work to help enable these applications, enable new experiments, and to experiment quite a bit. So some of the experiments that are going on have to do with kind of enabling video for better video for decentralized storage platforms, which are kind of key developer entry points for the Web3 space. IPFS, Arweave. We've been engaging with those communities, showing examples of how Livepeer can help make video play back more effectively off of those networks when they leverage Livepeer transcoding, and definitely going to be exploring ways that we can, release products and have tighter integrations and build storage support into Livepeer Studio, because you see, thousands and thousands of developers building applications on those networks, and it's inevitable they're going to be storing video and they need it to play back well. Similarly, doing a lot of experimentation in this kind of new Web3 social and kind of creator-centric applications. We've been calling these applications C2C, as in creator to community apps within ecosystems like Lens and Farcaster and DeSo and Orbis, where these are all social platforms for developers, leveraging kind of on-chain primitives, and making sure that we can be a video enabler in that space. What's interesting about these areas is they're really, really community-centric and community-driven. They have huge communities of developers experimenting and building in public. And I think for Livepeer and the project and all of you who are kind of part of the community, to help succeed, it's important that we like engage with these communities, try the products, like think about how Livepeer can make a difference, like show that value to them, to validate that as a video layer, we can help make them succeed. And as they grow, we will grow. Cool. Thematically, one thing I wanted to touch on and address is that Livepeer, like if you are on crypto Twitter, all you'd see in the last 2 weeks is that the industry is exploding and everything is collapsing, and values are going down to zero, and it's crypto winter and it's mayhem. A lot of bad news in FUD, right? The FTX collapse is one of the biggest examples of value disappearing in the history of finance, not just crypto, right? And so it's a huge event that's not great for anyone. I wanted to kind of reassure everyone, Livepeer is not directly impacted by any of the big events in the crypto markets. The company Livepeer Inc., that's one of the core developers of Livepeer, remains well funded with a cash balance, has zero exposure to any of these collapses or exchanges. And so we'll be building as usual without any like direct impact to the short-term execution. We've also been here before, and we've been building for 6 years and been through multiple different bear market, bull market cycles. And as usual, just focusing on building, focusing on executing, focusing that Livepeer shows real value by powering video, and it's not just a speculative financial project dependent on crypto token valuations is really important. We'll continue to take that strategy. At the same time, I shouldn't paint the rosiest picture in the world, right? The industry will face headwinds. There's very little room for positive narratives in the media, in the mainstream, in the kind of traditional tech world that has skepticism around Web3 and blockchain, doesn't want to hear about innovative, exciting blockchain disruptive projects right now. And that'll take a couple months to cool down, as it does with every cycle. And so, I think there's challenges we'll all face as a result of the kind of the industry headwinds specifically. But like I said, as long as we keep building, putting one foot in front of the other, making progress, we will continue to be standing on the other side as one of the projects that delivers kind of the most real world impact. Great. So that's kind of a quick overview on some of like the big themes. I always kind of cover network updates and statistics. So a quick section on this. These numbers are kind of as of the last few days and since the last quarterly update call 3 to 4 months ago. So our active delegator accounts has been pretty flat, decreased a little bit, but basically around the same number, hovering around 4,290. 99 active orchestrators when I checked yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised if there's 100 again. Today, 100 is the full set size, so that number will stay pretty consistent. The number that has changed quite a bit is actually the participation rate since the last call. This is how much of the Livepeer token is staked on the network, and it's currently at 53%, whereas last call it was, I think 48.8%, if I can do that math correctly really quick. This one is meaningful because it means that for most of this quarter, the kind of inflation rate, or how many new tokens are printed every day, has been declining. Whereas when it's below 50%, it increases. And so we'll see a little bit of an impact of that on an upcoming slide. I guess down below, you see that there's 5,826 LPT minted, in yesterday's round. Whereas 3 or 4 months ago, there was actually 1,378 more LPT minted in that round. So you see the impact of this sort of declining inflation. Cool. Here on the Explorer, you can always check out the Livepeer Explorer that has a bunch of these stats at explorer.livepeer.org. It's also your entry point for staking your token on the network, which you should definitely do. You see that actually last week, and in the kind of the weeks leading up to it, we've been hitting near all-time highs in terms of usage on the network and fees paid when you count the minutes and the fees paid into the network. I think the growth in applications and minutes is a positive signal. I shared something on Twitter, this sort of all-time high number of 4.5 million minutes or so, a little bit temporarily inflated due to a lot of testing going on our video on demand product, which you might hear about a little bit later. So I'd expect maybe the number to come down a little bit in the coming week or two. but still exciting for those new products to be launching and the applications and it's growing. Highlighting the participation rate and inflation rate. I know these are just a bunch of numbers with decimals that might not be too meaningful because this inflation rate of Livepeer token is shown per round. But I added a note. Staking currently, given that current inflation rate, you would expect to get about a 17% kind of annual rate of return or increase on your staked token balance, I believe by default, kind of before commission for your node operator. So that gives a little hint of where it's at. And I think part of this increase in participation, I'm speculating here and assuming things, but I think as you've seen the collapse of some of the high interest rates through DeFi and these centralized lending protocols and these lending firm and borrowing firms basically collapsing and imploding, now all of a sudden this 17% yield of staking on Livepeer maybe looks really attractive for what to do with your digital assets versus maybe say loaning it through a platform that doesn't exist anymore, or DeFi rates have come down, and so that may explain some of the rise in staking participation on Livepeer versus keeping tokens liquid. Cool. Network stats, minutes grew 12% last quarter relative to the quarter before, and we kind of have this goal of increasing 10% quarter over quarter at the moment. So that's good. On the other hand, revenue was up in terms of US dollars for node operators who are earning money for encoding video on the platform. However, not near an all-time high in terms of ETH, the value of the ETH that was earned. Staking rewards in Livepeer token were down quite a bit because of the kind of decline in value of the Livepeer token. Even though they were up last quarter 17% in terms of how much Livepeer token you were earning. This quarter will be interesting because both the amount seems to be decreasing and the value has been down as well. So hopefully the node operators who are doing a great job are appreciating sort of the increase in fees that are coming through, despite the kind of dollar value of the LPT being worth less this quarter than previously. Top priorities actually look pretty much the same as last time over the next 3 months. Establish Livepeer as the leading Web3 video platform, grow the number of apps that we call growth apps that stream at least 1,000 minutes month over month on the platform, and grow the number of minutes streamed on the platform by at least 10%. Not really at liberty to share like the exact numbers of apps through Livepeer Studio product that hit this number, just because that's private to them what their usage is. But kind of the goal of the whole project should be to onboard more applications that are actually using the network at scale. Quick update on the supply side community. As I said, our node operators continue to do just a fantastic job of providing reliable global transcoding, engaging with the community, helping one another out, helping onboard new users. It's really the most exciting part of the Discord community is seeing the node operator group support each other. I think opportunities for this community are to consider taking like an active role in project governance, participating in the grants program, supporting video developers as they onboard and supporting them through the public channels as well. I know there's a lot of technical expertise and video expertise, even though they're focused on node operation, just to help point people towards Studio, towards getting started, towards debugging and troubleshooting as they go. And continue supporting Livepeer's road to decentralization generally. Cool. I also think the supply side community should be thinking about and considering the impacts of opening up the fee market a little bit. The fee market's been pretty static with Studio kind of setting a flat fee for live streaming coding. I think as more video on demand usage happens and there's less of a real-time requirement and different requirements by different regions, it'll be interesting to start kind of opening up kind of competition for that work and seeing the effects of the fee market. I think we'll also see additional market participants potentially beyond Studio using the media server Livepeer Catalyst to use the network directly. I know there's an app that's launching soon that's been building directly on that. So you may see more payers beyond Studio, which could affect fee markets. So good to just be aware of that and think about the impacts of opening that up. Cool. So all in all, like I said, really exciting to see kind of Web3 applications happening, coming to existence, using Livepeer, growing the number of the applications has been great. We still have a lot of work to do to make those applications successful and see dramatic minute increases and fee increases as a result, but that'll be the focus. So cool, definitely at time, but if there's any questions that came through, happy to answer them.
Oh, but yeah, if anybody has any questions for Doug, and you think of them a little bit later, drop them in the chat, drop them in the general chat Discord. In the meantime, we will now go over to Eric for a product update.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Eric. I'm the co-founder and CTO at Livepeer. I want to give a quick product update because it's been a while since we've kind of talked about what we've been building here to build kind of demand for the network, right? So, you know, in the last quarter, like one of the really interesting thing is that like the Web3 tech stack has started to, you know, emerge more and form more, and so it's interesting to take a look at how Livepeer has been looking at the Web3 tech stack and where Livepeer fits, right? So if you look at the landscape, you know, we kind of have the layer 1 blockchain and layer 2 blockchain solutions for scalability, right? And then we have, you know, decentralized storage solutions for almost to help the blockchain extend its storage capacity. We have indexing and querying layers to help developers better create applications faster with the tools that they're familiar with, right? Things like GraphQL to be able to query for the state that lives on the blockchain. And then we have, you know, even querying layers like Lens, like the Lens protocol, where it helps us to query a very specific kind of data, right, which is related to kind of Web3 social. And then, you know, on the right side, we kind of have your wallet, you know, Wallet Connect, you know, at the identity layer on top of the wallets. And Livepeer, from a video perspective, really kind of sits in the mix of all that, right, in between all that, and it provides video streaming services for the whole blockchain ecosystem. So in that way, you can almost see, you know, the Livepeer network as a video streaming capability extension to the blockchain itself, right? Very similar to how you know, you would use IPFS to kind of extend the storage capability to enable the blockchain to be able to store bigger assets, bigger data. You can use Livepeer to enable you know, Web3 native video streaming applications, right? And a really simple example would be kind of a video-based NFT, right? You can store the video asset in IPFS. You can store the NFT minting information on the blockchain, and you can actually make the video streamable via Livepeer. Right? So looking at some of the new products that we've been developing, the big new capability that we you know, kind of put forward in the last quarter was the video on demand feature, right? You know, we've had the video on demand feature for a while, but it's always been in beta. And in the last quarter, we've really worked hard on making that making this feature a lot better. So a couple of things that we did, and Doug had mentioned a little bit, is really focusing on the integration with decentralized storage networks, right? So now there's really great integrations with IPFS, Arweave, and storage network to allow any video files that are stored in those locations just streamable in a global fashion. And that itself enables really interesting Web3 native video content formats, right? Like video NFTs or Web3 social video posts, and things like that. And you know, looking a little bit ahead, what's coming soon is a completely revamped video on demand pipeline that the team's been working on really hard. And this will help us bring more video format support, like MP4 and MOV and beyond, and as well as adding interesting features like playback policy and access control features on top of that, those video files. Another new thing that we worked on last quarter is Livepeer.js, right? We've created this JavaScript SDK for the Livepeer ecosystem. Livepeer Studio being one of the providers in this Livepeer.js SDK, right? It's really heavily inspired by some of the popular Web3 SDKs like WAGMI, where if you're a Web3 developer, it should feel very familiar to you when you're using Livepeer.js. And we've created really great examples and developer tutorials to help developers understand how to create and watch a live stream with Livepeer, how to create and watch a recorded video file with Livepeer, how to mint a video SDK, video NFT, how to play a video file that's already on IPFS and Arweave. Right, and from what we can see from the hackathons, this has been the most popular tool in the Livepeer ecosystem. And at the same time, we continue to kind of improve the live streaming capability in Livepeer. So we've been steadily improving the reliability of Livepeer. Kind of one of the examples is we've kind of improved it enough that the Ethereum Foundation decided to use Livepeer to stream the DEF CON whole DEF CON event, right? 9 rooms in parallel. We had about 60,000 viewers in total, being the live stream being simulcast on Livepeer and also through Livepeer to YouTube. And over those 4 days, about 40% of the views came through Livepeer. About 60% of the views came through YouTube, which is a really great kind of data point to show that Web3 infrastructure is actually performing really well and is able to create really great value for users, similar to kind of Web2 infrastructure, right? We added a new feature in live streaming, which is the access control capability. And we've been doing some really interesting experiments around interactive video live streaming using AI. So this is a kind of experimental branch for Livepeer, where we can do kind of end-to-end sub 2-second latency live streams with kind of AI capabilities. So, for example, a broadcaster can like hold up an apple, and then the machine learning algorithm will be able to recognize that it's an apple. It'll be able to track it, be able to track people's faces, right? Just using kind of the latest AI capabilities in video processing to add more capabilities into the video streaming pipeline at Livepeer. Talking about all of these features, right? They're really for one goal, which is growing the demand for Livepeer, right? And the areas that we've been focusing on, Doug talked a little bit about this, right? Like Web3 social applications and creator applications. We're calling them creator to community, C2C applications. We'll focus on decentralized storage developers, NFT marketplaces, especially as NFTs start to transition into more of a richer format as a media type, and video being an important element in there, and focusing on new layer 1 and layer 2 ecosystems that are realizing that the importance of these types of applications. Right. In the last quarter, we've done over 10 workshops, different hackathons and events, and have had over 50 submissions from hackathons of all the different projects that hackers have been working on. And it's been really interesting to see how the interest has grown in areas of consumer-based Web3 applications in general, and especially around video-based consumer Web3 applications. Here's kind of a call to action for everyone. So Livepeer is actually right now hosting the very first video-centric hackathon. Right, this is the first time that this is the very first Web3 video-centric hackathon, and Livepeer is really happy to be hosting that with Encode Club. And also with 14 other partners who have been participating in this, including projects like Protocol Labs and Arweave. So there's still time to participate. So if you're interested, I definitely recommend go checking out this Encode Club hackathon, and this will be lasting for about a month. So we'd love to work with you, and we have lots of programs, lots of really interesting workshops prepared for this hackathon to help see what kind of new interesting Web3 consumer applications get built in this month. Cool. That's a little bit about the product update. Steven, has there been any questions in the Discord? Okay.
Though we might be on a little bit of a delay with the live stream too, so they might come in late.
Yes. Yeah.
But if they do, we'll deal with those at the end. For now,
Yeah,
gonna hand it over to Paige, and Paige is going to be the MC and primary presenter for our demo jam. So Paige, take it away.
Awesome. I'm excited. My name is Paige Glowacki. I am a product manager with Livepeer, focused on the Livepeer Studio product, and I'm excited to get to show off some of the products that Eric sort of teased, set me up rather well for. So GLA is also here. He's an engineer on the studio team, so he's also gonna do a demo as well. So I just wanted to kind of, this is a bit of an echo of what Eric was just talking about, but the things that we're going to be going over today, we're going to go over on-demand. I don't know if this audience has actually seen a demo of the on-demand capability, so we'll do that. We'll also get to see viewership. So this is a long-standing product request that we've heard. So we'll get to see viewership as part of the process, the on-demand demo. We'll talk about Livepeer.js and the Livepeer player. We'll also demo the D-storage solution as well, that Eric also teased a little bit. This is for developers who are in the decentralized storage ecosystem, such as like IPFS and Arweave. We have an interesting product for them. I'm excited to talk more about that. And then GLA is going to show off playback policies. Cool. So I just want to sort of ground all of we're going to go through all of these demos today. I just sort of want to ground these demos in what the product priorities have been in Q3. So primarily reliability. We know that our product needs to just work. In our path to product market fit for the studio product, we know that reliability is probably in and of itself probably insufficient to get product market fit, but any attempt we make to find product market fit without reliability will be sort of gated. So reliability is super important. Improving the developer experience. This is pretty studio centric. I think the value of the studio product is really making it as easy as possible for developers to build with Livepeer and use the Livepeer network. And so anything that we can do on the studio side to reduce the developer burden, quicken integration, that's a good bet for us. And then also focusing on Web3 features. So we know that Web3 developers who want to use Studio also want to use decentralized storage, and they also want to take advantage of the monetization strategies, these sort of new monetization strategies inspired by Web3. So thinking about token gating content. Cool. So with that, I am going to dive right in. So Eric sort of talked about this a little bit previously, but we've made a ton of effort in Q3 on improving our video on demand, or our on-demand product, to make it super reliable. But I'm just going to show you, this is the old pipeline. We're really at the end for sort of moving to this sort of new improved pipeline that gives us sort of this great runway to further improve reliability and then also support additional containers and codecs. So this is on the old pipeline, but we'll have the new pipeline here shortly. So this is for those of you who have never seen this before, this is the Livepeer dashboard, Livepeer Studio dashboard. This is where you create your API keys. So this is the sort of the primary experience for any developer who wants to be using Livepeer Studio to start. And then we expect them to move to the SDK or the API. And I'll show off the SDK in a bit. So if you can also use the dashboard to sort of test and make sure you understand the functionality. So you may not be totally clear if you're a new developer with a Livepeer Studio product, like what it can do. So these this is your list of assets. These are stored video assets. And so I'm going to show you the upload process and take you through what that looks like. I have a couple of we're doing lots of testing, so I have lots of testing videos here. So these videos go through two steps. So the first step here, you're seeing it go through the upload process, and then it'll also be going through a processing step. So, and that's really the transcode process. So while this is doing the processing, and you can see that here, I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about why this product is such a significant feature for us. So even though that on-demand has existed in the Livepeer product since February, really we've done a ton of work in Q3 to really iron out all of the developer experience with on-demand, as well as we sort of built this SDK that it's in, and then making it sort of heavy investments in the infrastructure to make sure it works really well for applications at scale. So in addition, we also, and I'll show this off in a second once it sort of finishes processing, we also have an IPFS integration, so that if you are a Web3 developer and you're interested in storing these videos at IPFS, we'll return a CID, and I'll show that off in a second. So we'll just give this 2 seconds here. Yeah, let's see if it will. Oh, see, it worked. So this is your asset detail page. You can play the video asset here. I've chosen a funny video. So what this will do is, so actually what's cool about this is that this is the Livepeer player, and we'll talk about that more in a second, but the Livepeer player is sort of built directly into the Livepeer Studio dashboard. You get sort of some great sort of out of the box features here. So we know that developers want to embed the video in the front end. So we gave them sort of an easy iframe to copy the code, and so they can just drop it right in. That's really helpful for developers who are just building a proof of concept, and then or hackers particularly. And we got our first view count. So this is also my viewership demo. So we got one view here. What's cool about our viewership product right now is that right now it counts start views. So anytime you press the start button, and then it has some limited logic to actually prevent viewers from spamming that view count, because we know that developers want to surface popular content, and that viewers might be incentivized to sort of game that logic by just pressing that start button several times. So we got one view here, that's great. And then we also, and this is a bit of a teaser for the player as well, but we also have the Livepeer player also has an in-browser player, which we're seeing here. And then we can save to IPFS, which will return a CID. I'm not going to wait for that. I'm going to keep going because I got limited time and plenty of things to cover. Cool. So we did on-demand and viewership. These slides are just to remind me which things to cover. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the SDK. So the Livepeer JS is a JavaScript library that allows you to select a provider. And so Eric already talked about this. Before I get any further, I just want to give a big shout out. I know Chase is in the audience, Adam as well. These two folks really took this from make it easier for developers to integrate with Livepeer Studio, and brought it all the way to this sort of very polished, highly documented, beautiful SDK. So, big round of applause for these folks to kind of get it to the finish line. So as Eric said, this is heavily inspired by the developer experience for Ethereum developers. So if you've ever built a dApp on Ethereum, you might be familiar with Ethers.js or Web3.js. And one of the core experiences is that in those, you select a provider, and those providers are running Ethereum nodes. So you may be running one yourself, or you may use Infra or Alchemy to run that node. And so this SDK sort of provides for a future where Livepeer Studio is not the only provider and not the only hosted gateway to the Livepeer network, that other folks may run a Catalyst node and become another provider that developers can hook up into. And so this is really kind of an interesting value proposition for developers in our ecosystem, where we're really providing and planning for infrastructure portability. So maybe you decide that Livepeer Studio is making content moderation decisions you don't like. There might be another provider also using the network that you'd prefer to use. So, and that infrastructure portability requires us to actually define a Livepeer API standard. And so that work is actually kicked off. So we are currently in the process, a small team of us are currently defining what that API looks like. And so I imagine that'll be sort of a deliverable in Q1 to have that sort of being detailed, should sort of lay the foundation for this. Cool. So I don't want to get too in the weeds here. There's a lot here. I invite you to take a look. But this is a pretty, this should be a very familiar experience for you. So once you install the dependency, so npm install Livepeer, you'll also instantiate the library with the provider of your choice. So right now it's Studio provider. Maybe there will be a world where we're not the only provider, which is really cool. So I also wanted to talk about Eric mentioned this as well. There's some guides here. I think there's like little sample applications so you can get a sense of what you can build. So these guides are really, really great. I also wanted to talk about the player for a second. So we now have a Livepeer player. I've been at Livepeer for nearly 2 years, which is cool. And we, product-wise, we've sort of shied away from maybe building our own player in the past because there's plenty of HTML5 players out there. We just sort of heard again and again from users that they wanted us to build a player, that they wanted to make sure that their player was super compatible with Livepeer Studio. And we also knew that there was some limitations with some of the free and open source players on the market because they didn't offer core things like viewership. And if we wanted to offer viewership to our users, providing a player was sort of like an easy way to get those metrics. So we now have a player. It has it's pretty awesome. It has got some bells and whistles on it. So we have picture-in-picture, we have full screen. There's a long roadmap of the additional features that we want to add on here. So if you are a Livepeer Studio developer and you really need a particular player feature and we don't have it today, please let me know. Please let us know. Want to make sure that this is super useful for the ecosystem and any of our studio developers. Cool. How are we doing on time? Great. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about storage here. So I'm going to flip actually back to the SDK here because I think this sort of displays it rather well. So there's kind of an interesting, there's kind of an issue with video on storage today. And that issue is primarily that what is stored on decentralized storage is usually a very high quality MP4, because theoretically you're a developer who's building some kind of NFT minting experience and you want this sort of guarantees around permanence. And so you're using decentralized storage. Playing back an MP4, especially a high quality one or one that is sort of long, you might experience some buffering depending on your connection. So especially if you're like on a cell connection or you're in a changing bandwidth environment, the playback of those videos, because they're in an MP4, is not potentially this flawless optimized video experience. And so we wanted to create a product that basically allows decentralized storage developers the ability to bring their videos to Livepeer and have them be optimized by the compute provided by the Livepeer network. And so that's what we've built. So you can bring videos in directly from storage, and then you can also store any existing video assets that you have at Livepeer at storage as well. So this is, this is in the SDK right now. What's very cool is so I uploaded this video. It gave me a content hash. I'm going to give the content hash to the player, and it plays directly using just the IPFS hash, which is very cool. So there's an SDK here. So if you have a library of video on decentralized storage, you can bring it all over to us, and Livepeer will optimize the playback of that video. It also, sort of as a bonus, will help with the startup. Sometimes startup times take a very long time if you've stored video on IPFS. If you're using Livepeer to sort of cache that video, the startup times are much reduced. So we're really excited about that. I'm excited to see some of our go-to-market efforts be sort of focused around this sort of de-storage story, because I think Livepeer is solving a very tangible, clear problem in this space. And the last thing I forgot to mention was LensTube. I think this has gotten a fair bit of play here, but just that this is already an existing application using the on-demand API today. So good to see applications being built. And with that, I'm going to actually stop sharing, and I'm going to, the last thing on the Demo Jam agenda today is to talk about playback policies. Just to kind of set this up a little bit on the product side, we know that applications want to be able to take advantage of the Web3 monetization strategies. And one of those is token gating content. So basically creating premium content that is gated by either an NFT in your wallet or sometimes a certain amount of token in your wallet. We have created sort of the first building block of that experience. So right now we have a product called Playback Policies, which basically lets you playback your live stream either using a token that you've signed, or it's public and can be played back by anyone. So this hopefully unblocks those who want to create a token gating experience. We're in the process of building a sample application to show developers who want to build with Livepeer a token gating experience, kind of shortcut the aha moment. But GLA is going to just give us a demo of signing a playback policy and playing it back. GLA, you are muted.
Yes. Okay. Hi, I'm Joel. I'm part of the engineering team of Livepeer Studio. So here I have a gated stream, which is a stream that has a policy applied, which is just having this kind of playback policy. Sorry, a moment. Sorry, I'm having an issue.
Do we lose Joelle?
Does anyone know any good jokes while we're waiting?
Looks like there's a question from the audience here.
Yeah, we can go over that while we're waiting. It is for Doug or Eric, though Paige, you might have some information on this as well. With VOD becoming more consistent job type for node operators, do you see the need for orchestrators and transcoders to experiment with different GPUs, perhaps GPUs with higher VRAM capabilities? Also, in the future, will we be able to tell streams which GPUs they should be sent to, depending on the profile, if we're running multiple GPUs in one system? And that's from Authority Null.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the VOD capability in the Livepeer network is still quite new, right? So there's definitely a lot to be explored. I think in the future, it's reasonable to expect that the hardware on the network will start to specialize more, right? Especially different types of audiences are going to require different types of transcoding capabilities, right? So for example, if you have a Hollywood studio looking to transcode some video, that requirement is going to look very different from me uploading a video of my dog, right? So I think that will come. The time frame will be interesting. I think right now, the use cases that we're seeing are very much concentrated around kind of user-generated content and like prosumer content, right? So influencers, creators, some of them create pretty high quality content, and we get questions a lot from creators about like, hey, can you stream 4K, right? Do you support this H.265, right? Those types of things. So I think that's where we'll start to move towards in the next 3 to 6 months. So yeah, I guess the quick answer is I foresee that coming down the pipe, in the medium term time frame.
Cool. I just want to, I think we've lost GLA. That's all good. I can talk at a really high level about playback policies, and I can show my screen actually. Cool. So just kind of picking up where I left off, but so this is in the context of token gating. The product that we've delivered basically allows you to do a couple of things. One is the introduction of signing keys. So you have a public key and a private key. Livepeer doesn't store the private key, so we expose that to developers. We save the public key, and then we don't sort of put any of the private keys in storage. And then what you can do is, when you have created a stream, or you want to create a stream that is sort of private or signed, you can set the playback policy. We now have a place to set this playback policy to JWT, and then you can go ahead and sign a JWT, with your private key. And then that you can only play back the video with a playback URL that contains the JWT. So it is a way to sort of have some public streams, and then more private streams, so that you can, it basically unblocks this token gating use case. So that was the poor man's demo, but hopefully we'll get GLA back to do a proper demo for us. And I think that's it, by the way, Stephen. So those were our demos for the day.
Excellent. Well, if anybody else has any questions, I say stalling while I go look at it. None right now. You're also always welcome to tag whomever you heard speak in the Discord. So that's myself, Swiggy, Paige, Doug, Eric, GLA as well, and ask, or just ask in general. And we'll also have Twitter's, tag us there, tell us what your questions are, what you liked. Well, other than that, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll do this again soon.